bring you on our brands to help create a bright
I'll do it another time. Okay. This is wait, I didn't know if I was going to get around this golf and over Taco Valley. I like this week or next week. But I got 2 free rounds. The whole team. Just be a second.
Good evening, everyone. I've been chosen, elected, appointed, or whatever. I'm kicking and screaming to do the opening this evening, which is kind of cool because we are starting a new school district in just a few days, so it's kind of neat to be part of that excitement. So what I'd like to do today is to first watch a quick TED Series video. It is about 7 minutes, but trust me, it's a quick view through. It's inspiring, and then I'll take only about 2 minutes to make comments to add to that. So I'm not going to take all. It will be less than 10 minutes, and then I should be out of here, and the program or the meeting will start. We're ready.
Spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson, the kids should learn it, I should teach it, they should learn it, case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class because I am the best teacher and you are the best students. They put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave them a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to feel a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Well, I just have to kind of gather myself up after that. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And part of the reason I wanted to show that, because some people are probably wondering, well, this is the school board, and what are we doing talking about teachers and what they do? And really at the heart of it, I think that idea of relationships, both at the teacher level. I mean, a relationship where a teacher could be with the student, but also with the parent. Because if they're a champion of that child, they're also a champion of the parent to make them a better parent and to get them to do the things they need to do at home. If you're a champion as far as administration, there it goes to a whole other level, because now you have students that you can inspire, which is why, from what I've heard, as far as the best loved jobs of all jobs is to be a principal, is that you have the ability to inspire and to be a champion to those students under your helm, but also the teachers, because those teachers are human beings too, and they need a relationship. And finally, the school board. The school board kind of helps to mesh everything together, because through our budgets, and we argue, and should we raise taxes, should we cut this thing, and I look through those things and say that our relationship is to help to inspire both the administration and the teachers to do the jobs that they need to do to inspire our children. And I'll say one thing, there's always people that put down teachers, and they pay too much, get the summer off and stuff like that. Well, let me tell you about my summer. Because I'm a softie, as most of you know, I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. And so the summer ended, my first year back in the classroom after 24 years in second grade. And for 9 months, I had these kids that I absolutely loved. And so it was literally a shock to my body and my soul when at the end of the year, I didn't get to see them every day anymore. So finally, after 3 weeks of going through it, my wife saying, "What is wrong?" And so finally, after 3 weeks, I went back to sat in the classroom, kind of gel a little bit. And so that next day, or that evening, my wife said, "You were in the classroom today, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I couldn't resist." Because as teachers, when you become that champion, and I'm not saying that I am a great champion, I'm just saying that as teachers in general become champions, they do make that connection with our children. I've always been a proponent of technology is great, but it's never going to ever replace that one-on-one connection that the teacher or an administrator has with that child. That is going to be the most. That's why coaching is such a powerful thing to do if you're in coaching, because you have that ability to actually impart part of you and to show that child that they are worth it, and that they have the ability, and that they are have the potential to do great things. So I don't want to go too far longer. I think I could keep it to 10 minutes, maybe 2 minutes longer. Thank you very much. Let's stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you for my AD guy for helping me with the slide projector.
I know you weren't talking to me on that. Thank you very, very much, Director Gray, for a educational, stimulating, provocative, getting us thinking, great start to the school year. So, thanks, Matt. Okay, now we'd like to call the meeting to order of the Northern Lebanon School District School Board. And Mary, would you please roll call?
And we have absent tonight Arnold, England, and Lund. The other 6 members are here.
So, enough members here to conduct business. Okay, moving on to the approval of minutes. Everybody should have received them. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor, any discussion? Motion on the floor to accept the minutes as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to try this one more time because the voice vote is good enough on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, minutes are. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda. Does anybody have any corrections that they want to make to the agenda?
I've had a request to move item A1 out of the management program to be a separate vote. If I have any objections, I'll make it as an editorial change.
Any other additions additions, changes? Okay, if not, Dan or Dr. Martell, you made a motion to present the agenda as corrected.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ready for our agenda. Administrative reports, there won't be any this evening. Special presentations, none for this evening. Any old business? Not, we'll move on to the public input session. I have 3 requests. For those of you who are new here and haven't been here for when we've done this before, currently residents are allowed to present, and they have 5 minutes. Dan will be timing us, and at this point, the board members, we will be listening. Only I will address the people speaking, and we will not be commenting on the items of discussion at this point, and that's according to our board policy. Okay, first up, I think Stacy would first want Stacy Murray, and her topic would be curriculum and communications.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Murray. I'm from 165 Twin Creeks in Jonestown. I'm a social worker by trade and a social worker at heart. This is where my passions lie, to serve children and to serve families. I'm not here just for one child or 2 children, but I'm here for all the children and families that are within this school district. It's with this in mind that I wanted to discuss curriculum and also communication. I want to keep our curriculum in the forefront of our minds. Last fall, parents came together to the board with concerns about curriculum being used in the elementary schools and weighted grades. It was voted on by the board to remove the weight, and it was asked if the weighted grade was removed, would we still be here? The answer was then and is now, yes, we're here and we will continue to be. We saw a huge issue with materials being taught at our district, and I can assume the board saw those same issues. The problem seemed to be resolved when the board did vote to stop the weighted grade, but in many of our minds, it wasn't. The material was still used for the rest of the school year, although it was not weighted. And I've learned that 1 year of bad curriculum and materials can take 2 years to undo. So why was the board so hesitant to move forward and fix the issue? Many of the comments consisted of, we didn't vote the material in, so we're not sure we can vote to remove it. I don't understand this logic. I don't understand that when we see a problem and we're trying to resolve it, we can't just do that, resolve the problem. It's like saying, I didn't start the fire, so I can't put it out. It's time to put out the fire. It's time to renew this curriculum. Teachers were asked about the material, and teachers directed us to the principal. The principal directed us to the elementary education director. The director directed the questions and directed that issue to the board. The board didn't want to micromanage. I'm confused as to where the management is at all. I don't see leadership that encourages one to stand up and take steps to correct the problem. Everyone seems to be afraid to admit there is a problem. But honestly, I do not see this curriculum issue as a failure. The failure is when we have the tools and we have the knowledge, but we refuse to fix the problem. Northern Lebanon has incredibly successful graduates. We have incredibly talented students and faculty now. We need to give our students the materials that they need to be helpful and encouraging them in their journey here as students. I'd also like to address communication. There was a statement by Dr. Bell in the Viking Voice that he would like to open up the lines of communication. I was very excited about the lines of communication being open, as it's been a hot button issue for me for many years. I thought this would mean that we'd see more upcoming events, more activities being posted on social media. Unfortunately, this has not been the type of communication that we're seeing. I would like to impress upon the board to continue to enforce communication being posted on social media so that we might be able to see more things and more information that our families want to know about. I just talked to a community member tonight who said she just just wanted to double check the first day of school, and it wasn't posted on the Facebook page, and it wasn't posted on any of the websites. She had to pull a newsletter to get that first day of school. So to see that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, for your comments. Next up, Rachel Sekelic, and she will be talking about general concerns.
Rachel Sekelic, 109 Blackberry Lane. I would love to take this time to discuss your revisions to the 903 policy, but unfortunately I didn't have that information in time, so I'm going to talk about something else. I've been asked quite frequently why I am so involved in our district's inner working. It's a question I get asked, and I figured, why not tell it here? My involvement comes from a very personal place. I'm an example of what can happen when a district forgets about the students in between. The students that aren't the overachievers or the underachievers, but are simply trying to get through high school. I am an example of what happens when bad administrators are put into positions they are not qualified for. When administrators are more focused on advancing their own careers than they are on the students they are supposed to be focused on. I am a high school dropout. I made it to my senior year of high school, and unfortunately, due to a change in guidance counselors, I had no one to help me when I needed it the most. The teacher that filled the position after our guidance counselor retired was more focused on becoming the school's principal than he was on actually guiding the students in our district. There had been a mistake made when I was a freshman, and I lacked a few key class credits to graduate. Instead of working with me to try and fix the problem, I was persuaded to sign myself out because I was 18 and didn't need my parents' permission. The guidance counselor emphasized how easy it would be to get my GED and not bother with taking the time for credits. At 18, I was still desperately in need of guidance, but I wasn't receiving it at school or at home. So I signed the papers and left school with only a few months left. I would later learn that it would have been very simple for me to take a few online credits, and I would have been able to graduate with my class. This is a mistake I will never be able to correct, and one that should have never been made. A class of less than 30 students saw 4 dropouts that year. These mistakes were not just the students' mistakes, they were also the districts that failed them. It was poor decisions with administration and other problems that would eventually shut my school down. My high school no longer exists. I see so many similarities in northern Lebanon that it scares me. I left Tioga County when I had my son because I promised he would have a better chance to succeed, and he wouldn't get that in my old school district. So today I am here as a parent who refuses to just sit back and let this happen. I'm not a bored housewife on a vengeful mission to take down Dr. Bell or tarnish the reputation of the great students we have. I never expected to see the corruption we found in those right-to-know requests. After seeing the lack of accountability, it became impossible to turn away. I refuse to give up on this district and will continue to push for change. I know what happens when a district claims to put kids first, but actually only puts certain kids first and the rest are forgotten. I don't believe it's too late, and I will do whatever I can in the upcoming months to ensure that when we say kids first, we truly mean it. It would have taken one person to tell me, you matter, and my life could have been completely changed. I took a very hard path to get where I am in life, and I won't sit back and ignore those kids who are preparing to walk the same hard road. Ignoring our mistakes can and will hurt us. We can celebrate our successes, but it's time to acknowledge that we can do better, and the first step to doing better is to start admitting our mistakes. I am not defined by my mistakes, but I have learned great things from them. It would be much easier to skip that part of my life and only speak of my successes, but that wouldn't have helped anyone. So making my mistakes was better than faking perfections.
Thank you for your comments, Rachel. And that brings us to our last request, and that would be for Nathaniel Lincoln, topics board agenda.
Good evening, Nathaniel Lincoln, 207 East Hazel Street. I came to tonight's meeting excited. This morning's Facebook page highlighted how Samantha Shea, a 2013 graduate, had been awarded a National Miss at the ANSO pageant. And I thought, that's terrific. And not only is that terrific, but that's exactly the kind of information we should be seeing on our district Facebook page. We should absolutely be celebrating the achievements of our former students, and there are a lot. We're on the right track. And then I got here tonight, and I saw our agenda. And I see this minor item, Management Committee, item C, move for the tentative adoption of revised policy 903, public participation in board meetings. I can't wait to find out what that means. but one can only surmise that it's going to alter what has been the common practice, which is for us to have 5 minutes to speak in an open forum to speak our mind. After last meeting, when I brought to light various statistics that really reinforce the notion that the district has academic issues, it got me thinking about a quote that is attributed to Gandhi, but was actually made by a labor leader in the early 1900s. And it's talking about a social movement. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And so I can't help but think about the last 6 months, really since Gary Bouchette was dismissed. It makes me think about Jack Byler. It makes me think about a lot of things that have happened here lately, and how these concerns from the public were ignored and mocked and fought, and that leads us to where we are today. Make no mistake, there is a social movement afoot in the Northern Lebanon School District. There is a groundswell of support championing change. The people who pay taxes in this district and the people who send their kids to this district are not happy with the performance, condition, or leadership of this school district. This is not something that's going to go away. This is not something that happened all of a sudden. For those that are students of history, when you think about the storming of the Bastille, the day before the storming of the Bastille, everything wasn't fine in France. And the day before Gary Bouchette was dismissed, everything wasn't fine in the Northern Lebanon School District. So we have been ignored, we've been laughed at and ridiculed, we've been fought, and now the groundswell of support is going to win. We will get the change we are demanding. There is a tidal wave standing at the door of this district. And to continue the metaphor, when a tidal wave comes, there's one of two things you can do if you're in the way of it. You can get out of the way, you can be moved out of the way. And that is what's going to happen here. The public is demanding a better district, a more accountable leadership, a more responsive leadership. The taxpayers are demanding more prudent use of the dollars that we contribute to the stewardship of this district. These changes will happen, whether the people in this room are going to be part of the change or are going to be moved out of the way to enable the change. That's up for everybody to decide upon themselves. But make no mistake, this change is coming. It will happen. I encourage everybody to get on board or get out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Finken. And I want to correct one mistake that I've done already this evening, and I'll probably make more yet. I did need to announce that we did hold an executive session at 6:30 prior to this evening's meeting, at which point we were discussing personnel. So I'm sorry that I had not mentioned that earlier. We're going to move on now to the consensus agenda. Director Martell, would you take care of that?
Consensus agenda, I move it.
I'll second it.
I think it's the point where I'm supposed to say discussion, and I'm sorry. You know, you really got me in big trouble here now. I'm really apologize.
I asked you to do consensus agenda.
All right, any discussion on the consensus agenda? If not, Mary, please call the roll call.
Yes?
Bixler,
Yes.
Sal, Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
All in favor?
We're going to move on to the management committee now.
Agenda management, I move items A2 through 11. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Not Mary. Roll call vote, please.
Bixler,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
All in favor?
I'll go back and move item A1.
Second it.
Any discussion? Not? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Hauk?
Yes.
Martell?
Yes.
Warner?
Abstain?
Gray?
Yes.
Fitzler?
Yes.
5 and 1 abstention.
And now that everybody was flipping through their pages to find out A1, I'm happy to be related to the person, so I proved that I took myself out of the vote. Okay? I was hearing all this rustling and I thought we better offer something up. All right.
Okay.
Please.
Move item B.
Second it.
Discussion. If not, vote please.
Hauk?
Yes.
Martell?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Fitzler?
Yes.
Sal?
Yes.
All in favor?
Move item C.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Thank you for heading.
And this was management committee, so. Sure.
And there's also a concern this evening that they solved it. I'm assuming that the public has seen this and is concerned that this is a vote that will happen this evening. As with all policies, there is a first reading, discussion, plenty of time for input, more from the board, more from the public. And this is our first time we were discussing it because we did not have a committee meeting last week because we deferred to the National Night Out.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you saying this was available to the public? Is that what you just
This
said?
has not
been available.
yet been available to the public.
Okay, and my biggest reservation here is just, I feel like I'm not prepared to make this, but I certainly would like to hear, since management worked hard on this, what the thoughts are, if you can kind of walk us through, give the history, the research that you've done. Go.
Basically, this is, PSBA has sample policies, and this is one of the policies that puts us more in line with what they're recommending. I'll start with that. There's some checklists on it, and we pretty much check most of them. As a tentative policy, it is not in stone right now. It is basically a working document for us to move ahead. That's it.
And we did check with PSBA, and actually when you sent me to the president's workshop was when I realized how far out of line actually we are with school board, Pennsylvania State school board policies. We also did checking with what happens in the rest of the county and districts outside our county in the IU. And there again, we found that we were not quite where I think we should be. And I was the one who was actually saying that we should be looking over this and seeing what we need to do.
And can you just give a little background, just because this is new to me as a board member, maybe even for the public, just to what prompted this and what specifically you feel like we're out of line with?
Sure. It's very, very, I mean, you've heard me say this how many times. It is very important, it is vital that we hear from the public. Okay. Having said that, I sat in a meeting where the public talked to us, brought up good points that I think we really needed to examine, points I thought, I'm not so sure about, but it went on for 2 hours. And if you looked at our agenda, we had some items on that agenda, one of which was alerted that Bell and Evans was asking for. So there were 2 lawyers that sat here for 2 hours of things that were not necessarily on the agenda when they were on the agenda. And I think we owe it to, I think we were very irresponsible for not taking them or considering them as being very important, because not just because of what they're going to do to our community, just because it was kind of rude because they were on the agenda and had to wait through 2 hours of good comments or bad comments, it doesn't matter. But they had to wait for 2 hours. So that was part of my thought that when I started asking other school districts, what are you doing? How do you handle this? You need to be sensitive to everybody involved, both the public and items that would be on the agenda. So that's when we started examining what we had in place, and it really wasn't very satisfying what I found that we were doing. So one of the items on here, and I believe Mr. Finken did mention it this evening, we do allow 5 minutes. I don't think you can find anybody else that allows 5 minutes. 3 minutes is pretty much the standard, if not the rule.
And the new would be 3 minutes.
That is correct. In checking with PSBA, the other school districts, agenda items, I mean, frankly, this is a business meeting. We have to conduct our business first, in my opinion, and I hope in everybody's opinion here. We need to address our agenda items first. If somebody has a comment on an agenda item, they need to have priority. Now, some of the things were mentioned here tonight were good topics, not necessarily on our agenda. So we're asking, we're stating, we still need to be listening to that. Let's take care of our agenda first. When we get that all out of the way, do our business, then we want to hear from the public at the conclusion of the meeting.
I think I'm okay with that, and I know one of the things that you, as guidance tonight, I wrote it down. The purpose is to deliberate and to review action items, I believe is how we referenced it.
I mean, the Sunshine Act with regard to the requirements of public participation is to provide a reasonable opportunity for taxpayers and residents to address the board on items. What the president is referring to is it's commonplace in other districts where they have dedicated public comment at essentially the beginning of the meeting to allow for taxpayers and residents to comment on items that are listed in the agenda, and then a second public comment period after the working agenda has been concluded to receive any other comments on non-agenda items.
Now, one thing
considered in a sense.
One thing that's stated in here is, if it's my understanding, is for this second round of public input, then we would have the opportunity to kind of cut it off. Did I read that correctly? That if the majority of the board approves.
Are you asking that? One of the statements that we had found is if there's 10 people that are going to come to your meeting and say pretty much the exact same thing, is that what you're referring to?
Now, there was a part in here where it said if the majority will, I'll find it.
If the president said something and the majority, the rest of the board could say, shut up, so we want to talk about something different, we think we should allow that, you could say that. I think that's what you're referring to.
I'll have to find it. The other thing that I definitely have a concern with is the 5-day notification to the board secretary prior. I did not even have the most current agenda. I looked at it this afternoon, but I know it was even updated since I had reviewed it. So my concern would be that are we giving the public sufficient time to be able to review the agenda and then formulate their thoughts, be able to do research, and then contact the secretary.
And that was a concern of management too, and stop me, Dan, if I'm saying anything wrong here. It's kind of like we took all these ideas, okay, let's put them all here, and then if we don't like something, it's a lot easier to be striking it off as we're working through this document than, hey, there's something we missed, and now we're in trouble, we have to go back and find it, reinvent it. And we too shared that concern.
The portion of the meeting during which the public is invited to speak shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes.
And that was one of those, we put in a time, is that sufficient time? That's for us to discuss right here. We needed to put in some time in this document for us to discuss now and figure out if that's what we want. Because remember, this is, as I said before, we have to come with something to present to you for a first reading, just as our curriculum. First reading means, even if you voted on this tonight, we could go to committee meeting, if you voted in the affirmative. we could go to our committee meeting, and we will, in September, and we could just be ripping this all apart again, so we have a document ready to vote on again in September's board meeting.
I'm good with the process of putting it all in and then talking about it, but in terms of an official vote, my vote tonight would just be no. It has to be no, because I feel like, I've worked on big ticket items of dress code, homework policy, and I feel like there was so much process of research going on behind the